So as mentioned at the start, my opening gambit for this little trip are solid bags. For me personally, I think the big autumn feed up isn't a thing, and as the water's cooling, I think the fish's appetite's really decreasing, and I just want a nice little trap. So solid bags are absolutely perfect for that. They've got an element of attraction where you can roam them around and search out a few fish. So dead basic, maybe 4.5 inch hook link there, razor sharp little size 6, and a fairly inconspicuous hook bait. Again, you can play around with that, but I quite like something pastely this time of year. I think they've seen a lot of bright hook baits once we get to October, and I want something a little bit more subtle. Fairly big 3.5 ounce lead, dead easy, drop off style over the top. So I'm quickly going to run through tying a solid. Particularly when you're fishing at range, you want to time ever so slightly differently, just so they fly nice and true, particularly into headwinds or crosswinds like we're faced with today. So real small solid bag. Again, I don't want anything too garish on the bottom. I just want a little mouthful of attraction that a fish is just going to dip in and hopefully suck in the rig. So for me personally, I prefer the hook bait right at the bottom, and I'll work the hook into a corner. As you can see already, the hook link is starting to snake into the bag in like an S shape. So start filling the bag. I've got some crushed trout pellet and sturgeon pellet here. Don't want anything too oily, and again I can inject the oil at the end. So maybe 1.5 inches, and then the lead straight in. And what I'm doing there is squashing the hook link in kind of that S shape and working that lead towards the bottom so it flies nice and true. You want the weight of the bag as near to the bottom as you can. So we'll just fill a little bit more, then I'll fill to roughly level with the top of the stem and just give that a little tap in your hand. Just try and work any little bit of air out, and then I'll just start twisting the bag and working it into a little shape. It almost resembles a little bit like a tea bag, I seem to think, and that's exactly what I want, particularly at this time of year. Like I said, I just want something I can search around with my swim. So some PVA tape, and I'll just wrap round maybe 4 or 5 times. Don't worry about how many times, I just want it nice and tight. Then just tie that off like so. A couple of granny knots will hold that in position, and then all I'm going to do is snip away the bits of excess at the top. Again, if I wasn't casting it too far, I wouldn't worry about that too much. Then we'll get to this sort of arrangement. You'll feel like the lead's right in the centre of it. You can see the hook bait at the bottom, so that's absolutely perfect. Just nip the corners, and I can just work that last little bit of air out. Then I'm going to lick and stick, just to make it a bit more aerodynamic. Just hold that for a couple of seconds, on the same again on the other corner. Like so. And that is absolutely perfect, just for searching out the swim. If we find a little group of carp, we can introduce a bit more bait. But for me, that's the perfect start. And just before I finish, a little bit of hemp oil. Tend to come away from any fish oils this time of year. I want something that's a little bit better in the cooler water. A couple of mil of hemp oil. Then if you go through the top of the bag, facing to the bottom, just slowly get as much oil in there as you can. And I will give that kind of 30 seconds, a minute, just to all soak into the bag. And it's as simple as that. You can rove these around and hopefully find a few fish.